afternoon, everyone. My name is Ding So, and as you can see, that I'm from the Department of English, and I have it is my great pleasure to have this opportunity to make a presentation of our department to you, even though the audience is not quite large. But anyway, through the about 20 or so slides that I'm going to show you, that I hope that you will have a general impression of the department and the program that we offer to our students. This is the title of our program, the Contemporary English Studies. As you all know, that there are actually 8 government-funded universities here in Hong Kong, 8 of them, and ours is one of them. But as you can see from the title of our program, it's distinctive is in its own right. In other words, it's slightly different from other English programs here in Hong Kong. And the secret, of course, lies here in the word contemporary. Our focus is on contemporary studies. Okay? The texts that we ask our students to read were produced mostly in late modern period and downwards, okay, up to the contemporary period. Okay. We sometimes, in certain courses, we also ask our students to read classical texts, the texts written by Shakespeare, for example, but that's not our main focus. Our main focus is on the contemporary period, and that's why we have contemporary English studies, which makes our program very different from other 7 English departments here in Hong Kong. Okay, so, there are lots of students who, instead of being interested in classical studies, study of Shakespeare, or even authors, writers that wrote 2,000 years ago, but then there are others who are interested in modern and contemporary things, and so they come to our department. So this is the title of our bachelor's program called Contemporary English Studies, which makes it distinctive. As in many other English departments, our general aim, is to equip our students with a high level of ability and knowledge, so that after they graduate, they can apply the knowledge and the ability to whatever they are engaged in upon graduation. They may choose to work for the government, to work in the bank, to work in the media, or whatever. Okay? You can apply that general knowledge and that ability to whatever profession you choose to engage with, and that is our general aim. And then, we can make the aim a little bit more specific, the things that we want our student to accomplish upon graduation. We want them to study language and literature, as well as culture. And talking about language is inseparable from culture, and therefore we have to ask our students to study culture at the same time. So these are the things that we want our students to study and become knowledgeable about. It is an English department after all. Okay? It's different from Chinese department. It's different from cultural studies department that we just gave a presentation a little earlier in Cantonese. Our department is an English department, and therefore we want our student to have a high level of English language proficiency, so that they can function not only in Chinese but also in English. So this is, and then we expect them to perform at a very high level, and therefore high level of proficiency in English language. As was mentioned a little earlier, we want our students to be knowledgeable about the cultures behind the English language. Of course, there are now many English-speaking countries, and they have different cultures. Okay, you have in Singapore, for example, who also uses English as an official language, and they have their own culture. Australia is another example, and maybe Canada, and the United States, and of course in Great Britain. Okay? And they all have different cultures. And it is extremely important. For example, most Western countries believe in Christianity. And then, you know, when they write, when they speak, they often make references to God, to church, and to many other things. And it's part of their culture. And there are many other things, of course, in cultural sports, like the baseball, the basketball, NBA, if you don't know them. And then it's difficult. Even though you can, you know, look up every single word in the dictionary, you still find it difficult to understand the text. And that has a lot to do with the culture behind the language. And that's why we we will offer lessons and courses on Western culture in general. To give students an understanding of language study and of the ways this may meet a number of needs in society, we will tailor our student needs for different purposes. Okay, some students, after they graduate, they choose to work, for example, in a multicultural company, in an international company, and therefore intercultural communication becomes important. So we have courses in those areas. And there are students who want to work for the government and need to know how to write reports, write memo. Anyway, we have lots of courses that are tailored for different purposes and communication purposes. And you know, we not only want them to become more knowledgeable, and we want them to become also more useful and can make a very good living. To give students a background in a different genres of contemporary literature. Now, there are lots of things that are very practical. Okay? Intercultural communication, professional communication, those kinds of things that are very practical. But we also want our student to be a very well-educated person, a very cultivated person who knows lots of things, whose life becomes very rich. Some of the things might not be very useful, like the study of art and literature, but their life will be much more meaningful. They can appreciate the beauty, the art that they encounter in life, and which we think is also very important. So we will ask them to study literary courses, art courses, and many others that seem to be less practical, but nevertheless very useful. More specific aims, skills of independent and critical thinking. Once again, coming into university is different from studying in high school, where you mostly recite and commit to your memory what is taught by the teacher. But coming into the university, you become an independent thinker. You read and you go to the classes with a critical mind. Okay? There are certain things that you might not agree with, and you are encouraged to change and criticize and modify whatever is taught to you. And you have to argue and reason. And this is what we call critical thinking, which is very important to a university student. And this is an English department, but we teach our students in conjunction, in collaboration with many other departments here at Lingnan. So there are and there are certain courses that we think are basic and fundamental to all students, not only to students of English, but also to students of Chinese, to students of cultural studies, to students of translation studies. And so we ask them to take certain courses that are common to all, and this is what we call a general education program. I will speak a little bit more on this a little later. There are courses that everybody at Lingnan has to take. And so this is what we call general education. You need to broaden your scope of knowledge. English studies is a discipline. Sometimes if you only study English, and then the graduate can be somewhat narrow. Okay? But if you go into other departments and study other courses at the same time, then your scope of knowledge becomes very broad, and then you will be much more adaptable to different needs of society after you graduate. Of course, then we live in a world where technology is updated almost daily. You have new technology, new scientific discoveries, and especially the computer, the internet. So we want our students to know what is called the state of art of technology. Okay? We're all able to follow the latest developments in computer technology, so that whatever you learn, you can access them and then make use of them through computer. And this is something that is equally important. It's not just the ability to speak a few English sentences and write a few English articles. It's the ability to use the internet that everybody is using, a computer. And another distinctive feature of our department is that we require our students not only to study in the department, that is taught mostly by my colleagues from the United States and from Canada and from Britain, and all of them have a doctorate degree from a very good university. But we also want our students to spend at least 6 months in a English-speaking country, in a university. We have exchange programs here, so they can go and take a few courses there. The courses, you can choose to take the courses you like, and then you can choose the country that you like. Many students choose to go to Britain, which they think is safer, and then some choose to go to the United States. I just had one email from a student who originally chose to go to the United States, Washington University, and then yesterday my parents advised me to go to Britain because it's not very safe in the United States. There are lots of shooting there. But anyway, you have choices. You can go to Britain, Canada, and the United States. At least so far, from the experience that we have with our students, very few of our students want to go to South Korea to study English. The going abroad depends very much on your GPA. If you have the best GPA, you choose to go to the United States or Britain. If you haven't done very well in your study, then you say, oh, maybe I'll go to Singapore, which is not bad, or Australia. And then there are people who don't have choices. Oh, there's South Korea, which is a partner institution. But so far, our students, because this is an English department, by the time the international exchange program is in operation in the second year and third year, our students have already far surpassed other students from other departments, at least in terms of English. But anyway, so this is another feature. Okay? Our program requires a 6-month stay in an English-speaking country at a university, of course. And it's important in another sense. Here in this department, the courses are mostly taught by native speakers with a doctoral degree in English. But the overall living environment is still very Chinese. Once you're out of the classroom, you start chatting and speaking Cantonese. But when you go abroad and when you are the only person on that particular campus who can speak Cantonese, then you have to speak English. And also by becoming familiar with the learning environment, the living environment, somehow there is what we call a qualitative leap in your confidence. Okay? Many of our students, they just 6 months makes a huge difference. When they come back, you can notice, wow, this person has become very different because that person has gained confidence. They know they can do very well in an English-speaking country. But anyway, so this is an important part of our program, is spending 6 months outside Hong Kong in an English-speaking country. So this is, again, important to us. And then I need to say a few things about our program structure. Okay? We asked, as I mentioned earlier, we asked our students to study more than just English language. There are many other things. Generally speaking, okay, our program consists of 3 streams. Okay? One of them is literary study, the study of literature. The other is the study of language. And then another is practical skills. So these are the 3 main streams that contribute to the program called Contemporary English. And then complementary studies refer to the courses that you take in other departments that all students have to take. So English studies complemented by courses that you take from outside the English department. And this is basically what our student will be asked to do. And then, so this is literature study or literary study. This is stream number 1. And then you have applied linguistics. Linguistics simply means the study of language. Okay? You need to know how language functions. It's not a matter of speaking and writing. We want to make our students more aware of how language actually functions, so that they become an even more effective and better communicator. So this is stream number 2. And then we have language skills, as I said earlier. It's an English department. You need to have the skills to survive immediately after graduation. You need to know how to write a report. You need to know how to write an effective letter of application to apply for a job and things like that. And once you get a job, how to communicate effectively with people, colleagues in that particular company or whatever government department. So we will be teaching all sorts of things like organizational communication, professional communication. So this is related to language skill, of course. And then we have complementary studies, other things that will complement to whatever we do in the English department. Now, let me also say something about the literary stream. What do you do when you ask students to study literature? Most of our students, when they come in, they know nothing about literature. And they haven't been exposed to literature in English at all, which is with 1 or 2 exceptions. So what we usually do, there are lots of courses that you have to take. It's essential, it's fundamental, basic to everybody. And then so we ask them to do in year 1 and year 2. We offer introductory courses to literature, so that we provide a transition to those who come in, have no knowledge about literature, but then through these introductory courses, they know what it is and begin to like it, and then they learn a lot about language and literature. In the second year, and in the third year, in the first year, the pieces you read are shorter and more elementary. In the second year, and then you are asked to read more in greater length and in greater quantity. So these are required courses everybody has to take, because it's an important part of an English-speaking culture. So this is what we ask them to do. Required courses. But then required courses are very limited, and they cannot possibly cater to the interests of all students. So in addition to these required courses, we also have what we call elective courses, meaning the students can pick and choose depending on their personal interest. So electives, one of the electives, for example, is an introduction to children's literature in English. Some of our students, later on, after they graduate, they want to become a kindergarten teacher that functions in English, for example, or primary school teacher that need to know a lot more about children's literature. They usually teach them. So some of them opt or choose to take this course. And English drama performance, there are lots of students who are interested in performance. And they're interested in performing art, which is wonderful. And our department is very good at drama performance, and I'll show you a few pieces of evidence later on. And very few who are very, very good. Some of our students come from international schools, and they are very good already in English language, and they would actually want to become a poet or creative writer. And so they could choose this kind of courses to write poetry and become a linguistic artist or artist in language. Asian voices in English, and this is a course that's very popular to our students, because the texts that we ask our students to read for this course are the stories, novels, drama written by Asian Americans or Asian Brits who live outside Hong Kong. And so they write about Asian experiences that many of our students can relate to. So, for example, Amy Tang, Maxine Hong Kingston. These are actually Chinese, but who write in English, and they live in the United States, and that's why they are called whatever they write is, they are Asian voices in the United States, and our students like them very much. And then we live in a world that many of the older texts written a long time ago are adapted into TV form and movie form, film, to show them as films. And it's in other words, if you choose to become a director or to work in a movie industry, this will be very useful. Okay, so how to, for example, adapt a classical story, the story of Three Kingdoms, for example, into its contemporary TV series. And then this is, of course, that will be very useful. And then cross-cultural studies of literature. Our students, okay, this is what makes Hong Kong students different from other places. Our students are mostly bilingual and bicultural. They're interested not only in one literature, American literature or British literature, they are also interested in Chinese literature, and therefore they can compare them, look at them alongside each other, and this is what we do in this particular course called cross-cultural studies of literature. Other things that are also interesting in English in popular song. Many students want to become a songwriter in English, and this is very useful. The language of literature, and then you are interested in how the artists use English as an art form. Okay, so there are specific features about literature, and this is what we do. Writing your life, writing biographies, telling stories about yourself, about other people, and this is also very useful. And some students who want to become professors like me, and they want to know more about theories, and then this is, of course, that might be useful, theoretical positions, and then how to read texts more effectively. And of course, electives are always limited. Okay, there are only 8 or 9 teachers in the department, and each have their expertise. And there are more students who are interested in many others. And what do? We often have a special topic in English, and this provides a forum where we bring in experts from other places like the United States to offer certain very difficult, very interesting topics that are very useful to our students. So these are the courses on the side of literature. Okay, you have reply courses and then elective courses. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, this department is particularly good at drama production. Every year, okay, we have, under the leadership of one of our colleagues, Professor Lingnan, and who directs all the drama productions every year. We have a drama society that produces a drama in English every year, and these are the photos of the drama production that we did in the past few years, and this is one of them, and this is another. And as you can see, those who read Chinese, and one of our, one year, our Lingnan team was so good, it defeated the competition competitors from Tsinghua University and Peking University. Anyway, so these are the things that our students are very much interested in. They learn through acting, and it's particularly useful. So this is, the literary studies, and then linguistic studies, the study of language itself. Okay, the same thing. We have required courses, courses that everybody has to take. We tell our student what language is, how it functions, and this is an introduction to language. And then introduction to grammar, because most of our students are non-native speakers, and therefore, okay, the language rules becomes extremely important, and therefore, we want them to know more about grammar. Practical phonetics, as you know, non-native speakers tend to have accents somehow affected by their native language, and once you come in, you want to speak better, and so we offer courses to modify and correct and change their pronunciation. It's called English phonetics. so that if you're English department, if you are in English major, somehow you speak much better than students from other departments. And then language does not, happen in a vacuum. It's always related to who uses it where. So we will study the different regional and social varieties and dialects of the English language. Discourse analysis, you read and you criticize what you read. Say, there is a heavy critical component to discourse analysis. And then psycholinguistics, how a child can best learn a particular language. It has a lot to do with our mind. So psycholinguistics study the relationship between human brain and language. So this is what we will ask. Because some of our students, after they graduate, they will become teachers. So psycholinguistics will be very useful, even if you don't want to become a teacher. Knowing something about your brain, how it functions, is very interesting. And then critical literacies. There is a heavy, what we call, heavy dose of technology and computer, different media, the mobile phone, and many other things, and how language is used differently in different media. And this is what we will do in that particular course. And then English phonology, if you want to know more about phonetics, become an expert, and then more courses. Okay. Intercultural communication, if you want to work for an international company, and you need to communicate effectively with colleagues from other places, and this is the course to take. Organizational communication, okay. If you work in a big company, how to write a memo, how to write a report, those kinds of things, very important. And advanced professional communication skills, and writing, for example, a speech for a government department, and those kinds of things are very important. And our president, actually, his job is very easy because he has people who write those speeches for him, by the way. And then you have languages in play, okay, words and their former meaning. These are, what we call, the English major courses that will help you learn the language more effectively, the language of literature. And finally, as on the other side, okay, sometimes you only have that many people, and our expertise is always limited. Okay? And so with this course, we are able to invite experts to come in from other places, and that's the flexibility that we have in our structure. And then, as always, the third strand is language skills. Everybody has to speak and write English effectively. So there are courses everybody has to take. It's called English for Communication 1. Everybody at Lingnan has to take them. English for Communication number 2, taken in the second semester coming in. And then English for Communication number 3. And variety of English, is offered in the second half of the second year. And this is offered by our department, because the English department takes over and offer a little taste of everything, different genre, different ways of writing for different things, so that they are better prepared for further study in the English program itself. Complementary studies, the courses that you have to take outside the English department, and there are two different kinds, two major kinds. One is called, and you have, we live in a world where the mainland and Hong Kong is closely, is more integrated into each other. And many people predict that even though English is important, but living in Hong Kong, being able to speak very good Chinese is also very important. So practical Chinese is required. And then, we want to make them not just a social speaker of Mandarin, we want them to be very good at Mandarin. So we want them to study for a whole year. And then we require them to take common courses, like, the history of Hong Kong, you have to know the history of the world, history of human civilization, many other courses, and then how to think logically. All these things are what we call fundamental courses. that everybody has to take, and these are common courses. And then you have cluster courses, similar to core courses, but then you have choices. We have 5 categories of cluster courses. They are related to creativity, they are related to literature, they are related to society management. So students can pick and choose depending on their preferences and their interests. So these are complementary. In other words, our students study within the English department. There are, the things that English majors do, but at the same time they have to study these courses that is offered, that is required of everybody at Lingnan. Okay, that's why they're called common core courses. Common and core, okay, essential. You cannot avoid them in cluster courses, even though there are more choices. Finally, okay, you have, remember we have been talking about required courses and discipline elective, meaning the electives that are available to students within this discipline and within this department. And then, in order to broaden their scope of knowledge, we also allow them to take courses from other departments, and these are called free electives. You can take them from any department that you wish to. And many students actually take advantage of this flexibility to do a minor. For example, if you are an English major, you study mostly English courses, but they want to make themselves more competitive later on after they graduate. So they want to take a few courses. If you take more than five courses and above from another department, you can minor in another discipline. You can, for example, become a minor in business if you take 5 courses there. So these are the courses, okay, you can at least, if you want to have a minor, if you don't want to have a minor, then you can use this flexibility to broaden your scope of knowledge. You say, oh, I'm interested in philosophy, you go and take a course in philosophy. And then you say, I'm also interested in cultural studies, so you take another course in philosophy. So anyway, you are allowed to take 7 courses as free electives. So all these together, they contribute to the overall credit number, which is 120. 120, so you have 4 years of study, 30 credits each year, and then times 4, that's 120. Okay. Of course, you can take probably 1 or 2 more if you choose to, but not too much. And then, but you cannot take less than 120 credits if you want to graduate. Okay, I only have a few minutes left. Anyway, so let me rush through. And this is something that our department is very proud of. Okay. We have a student service center at Lingnan that does survey of the past graduates, how much they earn, what is the employment rate, and I'm happy to tell you that in all the past surveys, okay, the results show that the graduates from the English department belong to the highest income earning group. In other words, okay, our graduates make much more money than graduates from other departments in terms of income and salary. So that's good news for our students, and that's why our department has always been very popular. There are a few departments that are less popular. I don't want to name names, and they will be very unhappy. But students tend to have interest in our department because they will be more competitive in the job market later on. Okay. So this is the prospect from graduation, and they can choose to do many things, many things, not just becoming a teacher. First of all, many of them later on choose to become teachers of English in primary and secondary schools. And some of them, I have worked here at Lingnan for 16 years, and some of our better students or best students have become teachers, and some of them have become university teachers. And so this is one of the job prospects. And some are very good and very quick with their writing. So they work for newspapers and for TV stations, they become journalists. They go and talk to people and write reports and those kinds of things. And so this is some of them you see them on TV actually, because they interview people and what do you have to say about this and those kinds of things, and they write a report, sometimes orally, sometimes even in form. And then many of them work for the government. And just 3 years ago, we had a student who applied for an MPhil, master's degree in the department, and we offered admission, but he declined our admission because he received an offer from the government making over $40,000 Hong Kong dollars per month to start with. And so he doesn't want to come to our department anymore. He will become a civil servant. And you can work in a bank, and you can do international trade and business. Tourism is another sector because it requires people who are bilingual. Okay, you not only have tourists from one country, you have tourists from many other places who have to speak English, and so that's very important. And then there are a few who want to pursue further study. They want to become postgraduates, doctors, masters, and then one of the possibilities. Anyway, so the job prospect is very, very good for our students, so which is why our department is very, very popular, at least so far. Okay. Entrance requirements is more or less the same, slightly different. Okay, and it has to be Lingnan University entrance requirement. And apart from that, we have our own requirements, and then I'll give you these requirements here. You have to be, Lingnan has, I'm sure by now you already know, has, admits students into the arts faculty first. So you have to be in the arts faculty first. And then you pick one out of the 8 programs. Okay? And in order to come into the English department, you have to have a satisfactory result in secondary education and then results in English. And it's a 3 and above. If you score less than a 3, and then and then you probably wouldn't be able to enter to be admitted into the English department. And once you are in, you're also asked to take English language test. So the admission also partially depends on the result of that particular test, called diagnostic English language test. And then it also, remember I showed you communication 1, communication 2. Okay, by the time we make a decision, the student will have already taken that particular course called communication 1, and so the result of that course also counts. And then, sometimes if some of the students say, hey, the exams results are not too good, but I can show you are much better. So they can request for an interview and say, wow, this student is very impressive. So we sometimes interview our students. So the results of these things will contribute to our decision whether or not that person will be admitted into the English department. And because coming into the English department is very difficult, it's very competitive. And there are a few departments that beg people to go because they're less competitive. Anyway, so this is an introduction of our program. Our time is running out. So how much time do I have left? Only 5 minutes. Okay. And so if you have questions, and then I'll make myself available. If you have questions about our program or whatever you're interested in, I'll be here for another 5 minutes. If no questions, anything, I guess you have questions.
Can I know about the admission requirements for non-JUPAS students?
Non-JUPAS students is slightly different. It is called direct admission.
Right.
You have to apply to the arts faculty first to get in, and then you choose an individual department. And as I said, you have to meet all the arts program requirements. And in addition to that, I know for sure that for non-JUPAS students, direct applicants will have to be interviewed. Of course, you have to be shortlisted in order to be interviewed.
So does that mean I would get into year 1 too?
It depends on how many courses that you have already taken elsewhere. We also offer what we call course exemptions. The maximum number of course exemptions is 10 courses, 30 credits.
And do you consider IELTS?
IELTS is not essential, not required, but if you have a good IELTS result, you certainly want to include it. And it's not required because as long as you can prove to whoever is on the recruitment panel that you are very good, and then the IELTS is not required, but it will be very useful. Yes.
How many places are you offering for non-JUPAS students each year, Robert?
Non-JUPAS students, normally it's 6.
Okay.
6 places. 6 places to be offered to non-JUPAS students.
Total of?
6 students is the required. Is the requirement that we have to fulfill, given by the university, and then non-JUPAS students. The maximum number of non-JUPAS students is 25%. So if we have, say, for example, if we are allowed to enroll 10 places, then you can, and then 25% can be used for non-JUPAS students. See my point?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your attendance and participation. It's a very boring session. Thank you very much.
Can I ask you more questions?
Sure.
So I talked about the 3 electives, the strand, right?
Yes.
And so I can get 3 courses in year 1 and then 4 in year 3 and 4.
Yes.
So let's say I get admitted in year 2, and then does that mean I wouldn't be able to minor in any discipline? Because
certainly, if you come in as a non-JUPAS student, doing a minor becomes very difficult. Okay, thank you very much.